Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Kingdom Says podcast. I am your host, as always, Garrett Williams, and joining me today are my two usual co-hosts. First off, we got Kyle Henning. Kyle, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing pretty well. It's really cold outside, and I think that covers it for basically the entire country. But it was really cold here this morning. Oh no, I know it's pretty cold where Tom was too. So pretty cold, pretty windy, bunch of snow on the. Well, I don't want to say a bunch. There's a couple inches of snow on the ground. Other things have been fine. Let's talk some Chiefs, boys.
Yes, sir. Arrowhead Tom, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. Sorry, we started this recording a little bit later than we intended. I had to swing by the bank before I got here, so I was running a little bit late. But yeah, I got caught in line. So, but I'm here. I'm ready to talk Chiefs football and all the other things that have happened this week.
This has been a very eventful week. Not for football related reasons, really. Actually, the football kind of related reasons have been pretty boring.
No, we just forgot about the really fun stuff that happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say it takes a lot. It took a pretty substantial event to ease the collective minds of Chiefs Kingdom away from, tar and feathering Carl Sheffers and quickly turning to another piece of news in the kingdom. So it's pretty impressive that something like of that magnitude would occur.
It did unite all of Chiefs Kingdom. I'll say that much.
Look, Chiefs Kingdom has all kinds of unique characters. Some of them do unique things. We're going to leave it at that for right now on that. We may talk about more later.
Yeah, we are finding out what these unique things are, rather alarmingly.
Unique fan bases that have characters that do unique things is not unique to Chiefs Kingdom. However, I can tell you that as somebody who's run social media for other football team accounts and like podcast socials and whatnot, like I've seen some crazy stuff in other fan bases too. Don't worry, it's not just us, y'all. It's an everywhere thing. But do we have them? We do. Yes,
we do. And
like I said, we may touch on that a little bit more later. We might. I don't know. We're going to be gentle around that.
Who knows how much we get to that?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see
I will say to you guys.
I'll just say this.
Go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead, Garrett.
I was just gonna say, it's rather nice out in Arizona. So sorry about that in y'all's face.
How is it out there? 75, 80, 85?
Yeah, maybe not that. Maybe like 70. No record freezing, killing cold temperatures I've been seeing over there.
Have you gotten are you getting a round of golf in?
I have been hitting the
Lucky
I have. So
we're gonna have to do something about going to visit him or something at some point when it's like
it seems like
74 degrees here or whatnot.
Y'all need to get the heck out of there because I cannot imagine living in that cold of a climate. You guys are better than me.
I like the cold, just not this cold.
I'm a man.
You guys are built different than me.
Put hair on my chest.
I wear short sleeves.
Chest, face, not on your head.
I am built different.
We get it. We see it. It's right there.
Face, not head. It's all.
Literally, everywhere else, I can. Yeah. It's uncanny.
Eyebrows
the places I can grow hair other than the top of my head.
Yeah, everywhere but the top.
You would be surprised.
Actually.
We probably. That's not a conversation we should have in a public forum.
Well, we can have it in a public forum. But speaking of magic tricks, we should probably talk about what Patrick did on Sunday because nobody's talking about it.
I mean, other than
I don't know why no one's talking about it, but no one is talking about it. Yes, Garrett, I'm trying to be better so you don't have to edit things this time.
Patrick Mahomes, who's a top 5 MVP candidate, depending on who you ask.
Top 5, not 5.
Had an impressive game, including ending the game with 20 straight completions and just casually threw for over 300 yards. And was it 2 touchdowns or 3 touchdowns? 3, 4, 8? At this point, it's normal. We've talked about this before. There are times where
because 2 rushing touchdowns, right?
He did have at least one.
Yeah. So I have a specific Facebook memory that comes up every year in October or November, and I don't remember what game it was, but it's a Chiefs game. It's from their main account, and it says big numbers. It's a picture of Alex Smith, and his big numbers were like 225 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 30 yards rushing. And that is like if that were
pretty big.
Tweeted out today, it would get like that's not big. I mean, comparatively, and Alex Smith. That's not a dig at Alex Smith. Alex Smith was good, high level, quarterback. Patrick Mahomes just built different, like me in the snow out here. It's just built different.
I mean, it's facts. Like
he was 20 of 20 to close that out,
which is just insane.
And so the NFL record is 25 in a row. So if he starts out the game next week or this upcoming game 6 for 6,
it won't.
Yeah,
it won't.
It won't. But hey, still
not for single game. However,
it'll be tough with how cold it's going to be.
What people don't realize is it's the Texans. That's an NFL defense, guys. That's not a college defense. That's not some backup practice. Like, that's an NFL defense. That's hard as hell to do. 20 of 20.
And this team went they went toe-to-toe with the Cowboys the week before. And I love this. Again, shout out to the crew over at Times Ours. Those are just very intelligent men who know this game very well.
That episode today. I have
not the episode from today, but a couple of weeks ago they were talking about this is where you see some of these these teams that have worse records really playing up, because these players, they know they're playing for the jobs. Some of them are playing for jobs. If it's not with their current team, it's with another team. And so they're going to do everything they can. I mean, there were dudes on that Texas roster. I'm like, I don't even know who. I think it was like number 1 or number 5 on their defense. I was like, I've never even heard of you, but you're out here playing. Yeah, like no, it wasn't Petre. I know who Petre is.
I knew who Petre
was. It was one of their cornerbacks, number 1, I think.
Though, yeah.
Yeah, he was up there. He was hyped.
Tremon Smith quarterback for them.
Tremon Smith is number 1.
Yeah, that ain't number Tremon.
Chiefs legend.
Former
old
Chiefs
friend.
Tremon freaking Smith is out there.
Yeah, well, he was out there. You would have thought that he was playing in the Super Bowl with how hyped he was.
Oh yeah, that was his dude. Wasn't Eric Murray in that game also?
Eric Murray is on the other team, I believe.
Speaking of people in the secondary, yeah, dude, it was just a game of everybody. Look, also turnovers, and some of them that magically were created off of plays that aren't even physically reviewable under the rules that govern the game. But hey, we can just make it up as we go if one of our names happens to have 2 C's in it.
Let's just do our own
thing.
I know that nobody wants,
but it is for us. So.
I know that nobody wants to see Carl Sheffers officiate ever again. But please let it be. Please let the next one be at Arrowhead, because there is something very satisfying. I know the Raiders game earlier this year.
Take an assignment there again.
I don't think he would. Well, I don't know how much control they have over that, but it is.
Yes,
he might retire.
I'm sure his buddies will look out for him. Like don't get me wrong.
He peed his pants on national TV in front
pretty much.
He said,
There is no flag. There is no flag. Please don't come out of the stands and rip me into pieces.
Please don't hurt me.
Come on, man.
I'm really sorry.
And then you turn around and do this. What
as somebody said
happened on Sunday? Come on, Doc. Like,
is a Carl Sheffers revenge game. I mean, you gave him like over 120 yards of penalties. I mean, that's really the story. It's not. I mean, and shout out to the Texans. They're doing their best, but and like some of those, it was like predictable. I was like, all right, 3rd and left, flag. 3rd and okay, flag. And it was always a. I need to go back. I would be curious.
8 thrown flags in a row on a drive that had 8 plays and ended in a touchdown.
God. Yeah, that drive was
play in the end zone.
Like, I couldn't just help thinking, like, how do the referees not just like physically realize, like, oh my gosh, we've like, especially like Carl Sheffers, who's out there calling, like,
physically realize that
like,
they know.
You were actually like standing up there like 6-7 times in a row on the same drive, just announcing things. Like, how can you not realize, like, maybe we're doing something wrong? Maybe we're doing something wrong here. Like, what's going on here? How is this? How do you just like? You're just like.
Oh God.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, this is normal. This is a normal course of the game for me. I'm supposed to go after every single play and announce a penalty. Like, how
And
does that
only
not
point
like,
one direction.
yeah, like
Yeah.
how does that not get through your mind? Like
This
maybe
windshield
something's
wiper
going
is the
on.
only one that's on.
It
It's
does.
the only windshield wiper that works on the car.
Yeah. It does come through your mind. And the reality is like, officials are people and they develop biases and they develop opinions
And
and all
they're
that stuff.
obvious.
And so,
And the biggest thing about
you don't
officials,
you don't want it to be that obvious, but it's that obvious.
and the biggest thing about officials is that they just cannot admit that they're wrong. Like
Well,
under no circumstances at all will
That's-
they ever admit that they're wrong.
correct.
And
yes,
like
that's probably never gonna happen.
you need,
But-
let's just admit when you're wrong. It's okay. Coaches
Well,
do it.
or-
Like coaches and players do it all the time. Like they admit all the
or
time when
they're
they're
made
wrong.
to answer questions about it and then listen to how stupid they sound when they say the dumb things they say out loud afterwards.
And also, yeah, and then those questions get blasted on social media and everything, so like the world hears it. Like these referees, they get interviewed by,
we talked
by
about it, man,
reporters.
the unions, dog. Their
Yeah,
referees unions
But like
are
we never hear about this. We
crazy
never actually
self.
get their full answers. We never see the videos of them doing it. Like if we saw a video of Carl Shepard trying to babble his way through the explanation of why he threw like 7 flags, the NFL would probably just fire him immediately. They'd be like, this guy
Yeah.
is not
At this point,
confident.
they know too. This is the other part of it. They know. We're sitting here talking about it, giving them content because they know how freaking bad it is, and they don't care. Look at
Well, and
how
it's
many
not
games have the
something.
Chiefs. I have a question for you two. How many games have the Chiefs had 10 penalties this year?
2,
3.
2. Who refed them?
Carl Sheffers.
And you know what the third one was? The third highest one, and his only other game of the year was him. I don't remember who tweeted that out, but it's like, and it was the one at home. That was the home game.
Yeah.
That was the one that
Oh, the
wasn't
home
10,
game.
but was also the highest. Like, dude? It's obvious. Also,
Yeah.
you cannot change rules just because you don't like a team. The review that they were allowed to initiate.
Like how, and that's the thing. Like
They
how,
ruled forward progress. As soon as you rule forward
Boom.
progress,
case closed.
review ability over.
Yeah.
There's no, you
Yep.
can review
Somewhere-
forward progress up until this point because because there's no determining forward
Yeah,
progress.
when can you challenge a part of a play? It's like,
You
oh yeah, I challenged the
can't.
first part of this play, not the second part of the play. Like
Yeah.
what?
Somewhere Derek Johnson is weeping.
And I just don't understand how like the New York
Derek
like
Johnson is current.
Oh my gosh.
I haven't got
Oh
to see
my
it if he's on
gosh.
KCSN this week. And bless you, DJ, if you are, and thank you, BJ, for putting DJ on KCSN. If we get to see him react to a forward progress call like that, because oh my god,
I just don't understand how that like goes like because they obviously have to talk with New York, right? The NFL like offices in New York, and there's like, oh yeah, we're challenging this forward progress rule, and there's like, oh yeah, cool.
And New York's like,
how
okay,
are they,
here's
like-
what you're gonna say. You're gonna avoid saying forward progress. You're gonna tell them you reviewed something
We
else.
already
What
said
are you
forward
doing?
progress,
You're not
guy.
supposed to do this, Carl.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
And
What
so
are
like
you're
trying to
messing
bail
it
them
up,
out
man.
instead of like just saying like, oh no, you have to go out back. You have to go back out there and say, oh, you actually can't challenge this. They get their challenge back. Like
But
that's what you should say. But
that will
That's what you
not
should
happen
say,
because,
but-
as we've discussed, the officials unions have, for some reason, in basically all of the major sports, have the strongest union I've ever seen in my life.
Well, because they hold all the power.
Sort of.
No.
because
Because here's the thing.
we saw
There
their
used
personal
to be
Hold
the
on.
differentiation between the scabs in them, and I'm not even sure there is anymore.
I mean,
Now hold
That
on.
point can
Now,
definitely
let
be
me
made
let
now.
me explain this. This goes all the way down. This goes all the way down the rabbit hole. I'm wearing my old athletic director jacket today, and it's appropriate.
Well, there
In
you
1
go.
year as an athletic director, hold on, 1 year, the official fees for across the board doubled because we have an official shortage. And what do you do, right? You say, oh, well, I'm not going to pay you that. And then
Why
they
is
said,
there a
okay.
shortage?
And then they leave.
Why is there a shortage?
And because people can't control their emotions and beat the crap
Hold
out of officials
No.
at games at the peewee
Here's
level.
why. Sort of.
Definitely
but
in
here's why.
definitely
you
in
can
baseball,
incentivize
yeah.
this easy enough to still make that a profession that people are willing to train for. It's very easy. The NFL, the NHL, the MLB, the NBA, these officials should be what, Tom? full-time employees that work 40 hours a week jobs just like the rest of us, who
Full-time
study
employees.
film all week, who have pension plans, but that requires benefits, and then we don't want to pay those, even though we make a big gajillion dollars a year as an industry, as the NFL. Like, that's the part that's gross. If you would just pay the top level of officials appropriately and give them full-time jobs, and these unions would do that instead of working these side jobs and getting huge, big businesses built up off the side of it, which that's why they want to keep doing that, by the way. That's why they don't want to be full-time officials. They want to come in on Sundays and roll out and do their thing, because the stuff they do during the week is a pretty good penny when you can invest NFL official money into doing those side jobs, guys. So pair those things together. Have them be like the players and the coaches and the executives that work 60, 70, 80, 100 hours a week every week for 9 months, 10 months a year, like, most humans on earth that work jobs. And I'm not telling you these guys don't go back from their officials and work hard day jobs and work hard. That's not what I'm telling you. At the same time, if you would just pay them correctly as officials, they wouldn't need to go work the stupid side job to make the same kind of money that they should be making in a billion-dollar, well, Jesus, how many zeros, how many multi-billion-dollar? We're done with $1 billion. So many $1 billion you can't keep track of it at this point. Industry, like, how many $1 billion did NFL ticket just get bought for by Google from DirecTV? Couple billion, trillion, something with a Z. We're making up numbers now. I don't even know. Like, that's where we're at with contract money, which, by the way, affects the salary cap, which, by the way, affects revenues, which all those things tie together. You know what should tie into that? Officiating. Officials and being in there. They should be accountable also in press conferences, as Garrett said. As full-time employees, you do full-time employee press conferences, like coaches, like players, like executives.
And you get held accountable like full-time employees.
But again, they get babied. Also, there's no
that freaking sky judge and the ball marker technology with the little robot. You know how fast that crap would pop in there? Holy crap.
There's also no incentive on the NFL's part to fix the problem because hold on, because they are partnering with all these gambling organizations and that's been this big blow up. If you start to go, maybe our officiating is the issue, you lose a lot of confidence from your betting partners. And I mean, again, you create more of a mess. I fully agree with you that it needs to be addressed, but if you make this wide sweeping change, you're going to really mess with
really
the stability of
somebody drops a gasoline bomb on it and then see what happens to the whole forest.
I understand Tom's point about the gambling thing. I almost think it's the opposite though, because you're deterring. You're like, hey, these refs are like actually affecting outcomes of games. Like, that is affecting our betting websites. Like, this is a problem. And I would think, at least I would think that advertisers and partners like that would want the NFL, and it would pressure the NFL to try to fix that.
Especially from a transparency standpoint, from gambling's perspective, and because the partnerships that are between these businesses and how transparent they're supposed to have to be, that's something that should be heavily considered, but isn't.
In a very practical sense, yes, but it's more of it's like, instead of being perfect and trying to get everything right, they're just keeping everybody equally unhappy. There's not a fan base in America who thinks the refs are on their side.
It's a strategy, Cotton.
Maybe Tom Brady.
But begged for years is consistency, and they can't do that because what did we just talk about? There's no consistency.
They're not trained full time. They're not.
There's no consistency.
Well, there's also pretty major rule changes every year.
In the tools that they have at their disposal,
rule changes, yeah.
None of that stuff.
As a partner, as a betting partner, especially, I would figure you would want.
Yeah, there's big rule changes every year.
Than what they are. So,
there's huge changes, and they send out all these videos and tape changes of things, the points of emphasis, and this and that. Do you know how many rules there are in the NFL rulebook? I don't, because there's too many to keep track of. Do you know how many subsections there are of that rulebook? Oh no.
Yeah, having part-time officials try to keep up with that, good luck.
And again, I'm sure these dudes put in tons of hours on their off time, putting in learning things, or let me rephrase that. The good ones put in tons of hours on their off time, making sure they know the rules, keep the track with everything, have all that stuff. And I'm not telling you every official is out here to be as terrible as possible, but I'll make this as a cross-reference to baseball because this dude is universally bad and everybody knows it. Angel Hernandez exists in the MLB as an umpire still. Still to this day, that dude exists. And he knows he's bad. He's tried to, that's what I mean by the fact that they've got to start holding officials accountable.
Exactly, because a lot of these people are like almost grandfathered in a way where it's like,
this
oh
is
yeah,
the
I don't
stuff
need to be
that's
held
gotta
accountable. I've been a
stop.
ref for 10 years. Like, I don't need to be held
Refs
accountable.
that want to be good, man, but Carl does not want to be good.
But,
with the
yeah.
hold on.
He doesn't. He doesn't want to be good.
If you put a ref, hold on. If you put Carl Cheffers on the podium after a game like the game the Chiefs just played, he's going to get grilled. And the NFL, and I'm not saying that he is competent, but he's going to look 10 times more incompetent. And that's going to move betting lines whenever he is officiating a game.
That means Vegas
and Carl Cheffers, not the only bad official in the NFL. Maybe the worst.
There's plenty of them, but here's the thing:
So,
Vegas can adjust for betting lines
they
for
don't,
those things. Here's the
they
other
don't
thing
want that
do.
to be the case. Yeah.
Here's the thing, Tom. You know what they should do? They want to monetize everything, right? They should take the interviews with the refs and they should put them on Twitch and make it a subscription stream, and then you can tip for how much you want to watch for the questions that you want to ask. And then when they have to look horribly bad answering which calls they have to answer for, whichever ones, they get fined for that because, the players get fined for how their poor, horrible, god-awful plays and their bad stuff that can't be allowed, right? So when those things happen, those go to charity and stuff just like the players. But then when people give tips for good answers and stuff, they get those tips out of the Twitch chat just like that. So it's just a monetary thing where they just got to figure out how to monetize it so these refs can get paid and get their face time. That way they're on Twitch. They get to be the center of attention because that's what some of these guys seem to want to be. And look, man, it started a long time ago with a guy who liked to be really on the screen a lot with his offsides calls and his really fitness, and that was cool and all. And some people who watch football for a really long time know who I'm talking about. And he has a son who's an official in this league strictly based on the fact that his dad was. But hey.
Yeah, I think we could go on and on for a while about this, but listen.
So
we do it like almost every week. Actually, we go with this every week.
Robot refs.
Jeffers hates Travis Kelce still from when Travis said he didn't belong at a Foot Locker from like 2014.
Yeah, I think Kyle's probably maybe the closest.
You saw that clip, right? You guys have seen that clip.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we all saw that clip. I think Kyle's probably the closest in this answer or in this solution. You have to figure out a way to monetize it, and that's what will incite the
robot
NFL.
refs.
So let's move on here. Let's move on. Let's change the little course here. Let's change course. Let's push past the ref talk because we could go on for another 30 minutes about it, and it would all be valid.
Good question.
It would
So,
all be valid.
Next topic.
Who
are the Chiefs going to hire as defensive coordinator once Andy Reid fires a longtime friend Steve Spagnuolo?
Right, can we do this now? Because since you want to bait
we're
me,
already we're already ranting about things, so I feel like we should get into it.
Kick back your feet and relax.
Okay, so this fan base loves to say that it can set expectations and have reasonable expectations for this team. And then we get into a season and then they can't, because every Sunday when you go to pick who's going to beat the Chiefs for your 6 losses you picked the Chiefs to take this year in the preseason, or the 5 that you took, or whatever the number was that you picked, when you go to do that every Sunday, who do you end up picking 99% of the time as a fan base? And we all do it. And it's not anyone in specific. This is a universal thing, right? When you do this, for the most part, who do you end up picking? Most of the time when it comes down to it, the Chiefs, because by the time you get to the game during the day, on the day of, at the end of the day, they have a roster that's at least usually 75 to 95% of the other team's roster at the worst, and a completely better roster at the best, and they have Patrick every time in most of those scenarios. So most of the time you're going to pick them, right? Okay, yeah. So with that, when you have a team that is an 11-3 team that is done with their division before Christmas Eve noon kickoff with an old division opponent, that starting 6 rookies has given playing time to like 8 of them at this point, including some other guys who have not been on this roster because injuries, suspensions, other things, this, that, and the third, and they're 11-3, and we're talking about firing the coordinator regardless of whether or not they win the Super Bowl. And it's not the people that have to write about its fault. It's not the people that have to talk about its fault. It's the freaking mentality of this fan base and the inability to set proper expectations fault, and it drives me insane. And I don't understand why we do this all the time, because we talked preseason, guys, about what we expected this team to be this year, and we were hopeful for this team to have a top 20 defense, just get me to close to 20, right? We wanted 20, and where are they? Like 21, 22.
21.
And in some areas
almost.
they're like 15, and in some areas they're like 28. And we understand that there's going to be deficiencies with some of this stuff. But what are we like? Again, I'm not targeting the writers or the content creators, because I think some people took some things that way. And here, this is me telling you, not personal shots. But stop doing this stuff with this guys, with this fan base. Stop making us talk about this crap, because it's crazy. It's crazy to have this conversation. There was a Twitter poll run by KCSN with Maddie Lane about if Spags with the Niners defense or another defensive coordinator, somebody else with this defense would have a better defense. And there for a while, I was sitting there looking at the poll, and everybody that was looking at the poll, including the person that put it out, was just like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
What are we doing, guys? That is
it's I understand that we expect them to win every week. They're not going to win every week. They're going to have deficiencies. They're going to have stuff. But for the most part, they gave up 230 yards to the Texans on defense. Okay? The penalty thing, we can go back, and we already talked about that.
We already talked about the penalty thing, but
So,
listen.
The yardage and the penalty thing is a different conversation entirely. The defense is got stuff that it needs, and they need some more players. But we also knew this was basically a retooling year, and we were supposed to get slaughtered according to everyone on earth, and we're done before Christmas. Relax. Calm down. Set the expectations properly. Right now, all we're doing is hunting a home seed, home advantages, and let's get healthy, stay healthy into the playoffs, let the rookies get some snaps, some more development, and roll up for a playoff run. I don't understand why the fan base freaks out about this stuff, and then we have to go deep dive into stuff and freak out. Like, there are limitations to play calling. There are scheme things that are happening. We have talked about scheme on this podcast a ton, Tom. Has the scheme been absolutely atrocious this year? Does he still have tendencies that are not incredible? Everybody has eyeballs. Everybody does. Andy still has bad tendencies. We talk about him all the freaking time. Are we firing Andy Reid because he runs the ball on 2nd and 10 sometimes, and you guys hate it? Like, what? Stop.
I definitely take a drink every time I see it, but
we've made it a drinking game. It's a thing, but like, you accept some of these things when you look at the results at the end of the day. It's a cumulative goal. The goal in the NFL during the regular season is to win each week. That's what it is during the regular season. This team knows that. The coaching staff knows that. The front office knows that. They're built for this. We've got to start. I don't want to see us turn into the Patriots fans where we don't enjoy this, that we get 15 years in, 18 years in, and we spent the whole time arguing about who the friggin' middle linebacker, if the middle linebacker is in coverage good enough or not, or if the defensive coordinator is calling the right blitz on 3rd down and long or not. Like, can we?
Like, hey guys, we got Patrick Mahomes.
Can we just?
We got greatness.
They win like 85% of their freaking games, and the quarterback. We're sitting here talking about defenses and whatnot. And he was 36 of 41 for unbelievable yards, like it was like
36,
a clinic.
2 touchdowns, 1 rushing.
It was a clinic, and we're over here worried about other stuff the whole time because this is what we got to talk about, because these are what the fan base wants to talk about, and I hate it.
I think, yeah.
Go ahead, Garrett.
I agree. I do agree. I think we have to live in the moment a little more, especially as Chiefs fans, especially this year when, there are these glaring flaws and we might not, we have to just be realistic and say that we might not win the Super Bowl this year. Who knows? Who knows what happens?
Every
But
year that is
also,
the correct answer. We
that
might
is
not win the Super Bowl every
exactly.
year.
And then all of a sudden the playoffs happen and it's like, oh yeah, this team could probably win a Super Bowl, guys. Hey, this team could probably win a
They're
Super Bowl.
still
Who
one of
knows?
the best 5 teams in the league.
Yeah. So I think you
And I don't
definitely
even
have to
think I
temper.
have to be, and I'm being nice with 5, y'all. Like, they're probably one of the best 3 teams in the league.
Yeah.
Look around.
So I
Look
do
around
agree.
at what's left.
I agree. We have to appreciate some of the greatness that we are seeing a little bit more, and then let the creases get ironed out. That's what I like to say. Let the bad things, they'll eventually kind of figure themselves out, or they won't. And guess what? Then we got next season to look forward to. So, any other big takeaways from the Texans games? Go ahead, Tom.
Oh,
Tom is raising his hand.
I wanted to say more about this defensive. This defensive griping. I am not by any means Steve Spagnuolo's biggest fan, and if they moved on from him this offseason, I wouldn't shed tears. I will say this: I think this is Steve Spagnuolo's job until he loses it, or until he doesn't want it. I know his contract is up at the end of the year. He may walk away. He's an older coach, all that stuff. They may have just a really nice conversation. At the same time, from a team building, a roster construction standpoint, it's been really difficult for Steve Spagnuolo to this team has been built around Patrick Mahomes. So Steve Spagnuolo, as much as you want to criticize him, he's like second priority, right? Like he's like the side girl. He's not getting the big bouquet of roses on Valentine's Day. He might get a good morning text. Like it's not the same. He's not getting the same. Now, has Brett Veach put an effort and try to get guys on defense? Yeah, but there's also been some swings and misses on the defensive side of the ball with the Chiefs, right? And here the big one everyone's always talking about is a pass rush. Pass rush. We just need to go get a pass rusher. All right, let's recap the top. I'm going by PFF just because it's a source, right? But here are the top
sources.
Pass rushers in the NFL and where they were drafted, right? Myles Garrett, 1-1. Khalil Mack, 5th pick in the first round. Micah Parsons, 12th pick in the first round. Joey Bosa, 3rd pick in the first round. Nick Bosa, 2nd pick in the first round. Max Crosby is the outlier in that he was a 4th round pick. Continuing down the list, Brian Burns, 16th pick in the first round. Rashawn Gary, 12th pick in the first round. Chase Young, 2nd pick in the first round. Do you see the theme with the exception of Max Crosby here? If you're going to add a big name pass rusher, you have to draft them yourself. And they're going to be a top 20 pick. And guess what the Chiefs haven't had since Patrick Mahomes, since Andy Reid, since forever. Again, that's where you point back to, you should appreciate the moment because they're winning so many, it's like, we don't have a good pass rush. Yeah, because they're winning games and they can't get one. They could make a trade up and they could, all that stuff. They took a swing on a guy. I know that, we've talked about trading. I think that Brett Veach learned a lesson, right? Because that's one thing that, Brett Veach is a great GM. And I've listened to other podcasts, people who aren't Chiefs focused, and the NFL Stock Exchange with Trevor Sikkema and Connor Rogers did this a couple weeks ago. They're talking about the tiers of GMs, and they had a top tier. They got to Brett Veach, and I was like, here comes a conversation. Here's going to be, nope, without hesitation, top tier GM. Because they understand that not every team is going to be built perfectly. This isn't Madden. The number of teams in the NFL, in NFL history, that have had the number one offense and number one defense, very few and far between. The Chargers did it almost a decade ago, and then before that, it was the Packers in '96, and then it's like once every 15 to 20 years, you have a team that's that manages to do both. It's not Madden. You're not going to go out and trade for Brian Burns for a 2nd round pick and a 3rd string running back. And I think that Brett Veach has learned his lesson. He's not going to try to do that kind of stuff. He's going to try to draft guys, try to take some swings, and that's your hope, right? And it's hard because draft or pass rushers are a premier position and they go in the first 20 picks. And most teams, if they're in the position to take a guy, aren't trading down because they want that guy. So they don't grow on trees. They're not being passed around like candy. Here's the other thing. I'm looking at this list. I'm going further down the list. Daniil Hunter wasn't a first-round pick, but drafted by the Vikings. Carl Lawson signed a free agency deal with the Jets. Hasn't lived up to that, his second contract. Yeah. Randy Gregory, Zadarius Smith, both on second contracts. You just go down on those older guys.
Trey Hendrickson.
Guys that, it's
Trey
not
Hendrickson's probably on
easy
there somewhere.
Yeah, you can't just pull a name out of a hat and go, oh, I got a pass rusher. They're not handing these guys out as free samples at Walmart. It's just not happening. So you have to understand that there's a method to the roster construction. And, yeah, the pass rush sucks. But where was he supposed to get tell me where he was supposed to get a pass rusher, right? Without being revisionist or, perfect 2020.
Revisionist,
we can all do that.
Hindsight 2020.
Somebody else,
There are a couple free agent swings you probably could have taken. Trey Hendrickson.
I know. I get it, man.
Smith.
I get it.
But God points.
This stuff it's so frustrating to do this because, like Tom just said, we listen to, I know I do. Not everybody does. Not all of the Kingdom does, and that's great. But a lot of us that do this, we listen to a lot of people that cover the league nationally and cover this team and other teams around the league nationally. And man, they're talking about Steve Spagnuolo for head coaching jobs this offseason, not firing him. You guys, we understand that, right? There are people talking about Spags getting a head coaching job before Eric Bieniemy. As recently as 5 months ago, and as recently as probably more recently than that. And there are some people that believe he could have one right now if he so chose to. So there's that part of it. We do this stuff, and the people look, man. I saw some Andy tweets. I'm not even gonna pretend like I'm gonna give that much more than the 5 seconds of this, but just that man retires when he wants to or leaves the Chiefs when he wants to. Because all I'm gonna say to you is 2 words, and it's one name.
There's a lot more than
Todd Haley.
It's 10, 15 seconds you gave to that. I'll say this. I think Eric Bieniemy and Steve Spagnuolo should both go get a head coaching job next season. Bon voyage. Thank you very much for your service and the Super Bowl. I would also kind of challenge the fact you could have maybe taken a couple more swings for a pass rusher if you're Brett Veach. I mentioned Trey Hendrickson, Zadarius Smith. You have a couple free agents that, yes, they're pricey. Well, you also got to spend money somewhere. Potentially trading.
Not been giant spending money.
I get you. I'm just trying to get my whole thought out here. I know y'all had your turns, so I'm just saying. Be maybe a little aggressive with a trading up in the first round, or trading for a pass rusher, Brian Burns. Send a second and Mecole Hardman over to them. Come on over, Brian Burns. How you doing with Chiefs Kingdom? I just think there's definitely. I agree that Steve Spagnuolo really hasn't been dealt a full deck of cards, if you will. Arguably, no defensive coordinator is usually. So you got to kind of make what you got work. And so far, or at least this season, it's just been an opposite trend. As we've seen,
resetting. This season is a reset as a team.
Exactly, but you're still seeing the opposite trend of the defense, where usually they start out bad and then get better. And then this defense kind of started out okay, and now they're kind of getting worse. And so
a bunch of rookies overachieved because a bunch of offenses really didn't have film on what he was going to do with a bunch of rookies, and he was doing a bunch of different, maybe some base or vanilla things with them early on, and now we're starting to get deeper into his playbook, and he's starting to open up and test them a little more, especially against some worse teams.
But he's not, and that's so.
He's leaving guys on islands. He's leaving rookies on one-on-one stuff like. That's some stuff he's testing guys with some things like that. That's what he's still doing those things.
I don't remember if we talked about this here or if it was somewhere else, but the lack of turnovers on the defensive side of the ball. Yes, that's not because there's not talent on the secondary. It's because these are young kids and they are focused on the fundamentals. Here's the funny thing. Steve Spagnuolo, by the way, if you don't know, Steve Spagnuolo's background is as a defensive back.
Hates rookies.
So he also hates rookies, but he's starting a ridiculous amount of rookies, and they're not terrible. No one's out here going, "Oh, Trent McDuffie's a bust. Oh, we wasted a pick on Joshua Williams. Oh, Brian Peek is the worst." Right? Yeah, these kids, like, I don't worry about Trent McDuffie. I don't worry about Joshua Williams. Not like, we said the Todd Haley name. Why don't we just invoke all the curses? Y'all remember a player named Philip Gaines?
Orlando Scandrick. I mean, look, I'm not out here trying to just blast everybody, but like we talked about in the Texans game, some players that played in our secondary that people wanted run out of town.
Yeah. I mean, even this season. And I mean, and this is, listen, we were a pro Rashad Fenton podcast, but these rookies are playing well enough that they got rid of Rashad Fenton. Like, this is, you have to also, if you're going to criticize, the pass rush, let's talk about the good work that Steve Spagnuolo, the impressive work that Steve Spagnuolo has done
and
with
Joe
these
Cohen,
rookies.
Pulling all his credit too.
Yeah. But also L'Jarius Sneed, absolute stud. But that's not, that's a whole other take for a whole other time. But, because L'Jarius Sneed is the player that people think Derwin James is. But that's, another conversation for another time.
Tom is spicy and also getting kind of close to correct with that take.
Tell me something that Derwin James can do that L'Jarius Sneed can't.
Name it.
Something. Be about an inch and a half taller than he is. Be about an inch and a half taller and about 35 pounds heavier, wouldn't you say?
Okay.
Well, when
Derwin James cover.
Okay. Other than that, I don't got a lot for you. Other than that, I don't got a lot for you. The only other thing I say, I haven't watched L'Jarius try to cover Travis, but I know Derwin can't.
That's what I was gonna say. So, can he cover
Travis?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
No,
I'm not. Sorry, I'm on a whole rant.
But you're right. Like, look, man, in the pass rush. Yeah, it's not elite. We knew that.
Not even a little bit.
We knew that.
But there's not been an opportunity to make it to add pieces.
But it's not great.
Okay, we knew that too. But yeah,
we've also been improving. And you know what I think we noticed, and at least I noticed, you know who makes a little bit of noise on the pass rush?
Carlos Dunlap?
I was thinking the other guy they just picked up. Brandon Williams, man. At least one, he did
2 sacks in 2 weeks.
All the way around the arc on a hustle sack, all the way around and clean. He's got 2 in 2 games.
Probably, yeah.
But he made an incredible. I think he went all the way up the arc and around. Like it. Look, man, they're going to. It's not going to be pretty when they get pressure.
No.
It's not going to be. And George is getting there. He's starting to get a little closer. You can see it every game. He's getting a little faster. He's getting there a little quicker. He's winning a little bit faster. He's getting a little bit closer. I've watched it and he's starting to clean up stuff now because they're starting to get the pocket is starting to get closed a little bit better. I know the quarterbacks aren't as good. I get all that. You play what's in front of you. You do what you can against what you're dealt. They're getting better, and they weren't supposed to be anything but a top 20 defense if we were at the most optimistic when this offseason started, and that's about what they are right now. So. I want to be clear about what I talked about earlier. The article that was written, the article has valid points in it. There are correct things in that article. He's very much got some valid points in it. I'm just the overall topic of the fire him no matter what happens thing to me is not the same as the actual content of the article and the actual content of what the writer was discussing. So that's why I bring up the clickbait and the fan base mentality of we have to talk about firing this defensive coordinator this season or him being out of here regardless. Like that to me is the fan base's mentality doing, not the people that have to sit here and talk about it's doing. So I just wanted to be extra clear about that. So for that reason, with that said, we can continue forward.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tom. I was going to say we can continue forward with what Tom's thoughts or Garrett's thoughts on.
I was going to say let me use this as an opportunity to talk about the draft for a second.
No,
please do.
I'm just kidding.
So
I'm shocked, by the way.
Here's the thing.
Absolutely stunned.
This is just
an opportunity overview to transition us out of any possible area ever into the draft.
So this year, more than some of the other years in past, like the edge rush class is a little bit deeper. There are some guys who are going to climb the boards, but the guys that like last year, it was like 2 or 3 guys, and then you fell off a cliff. This year, you've got a lot more guys who you like. They're going to be project guys. They're not. Here's the other thing. I already said one of my spicy takes. Here's my other spicy take.
Mm-hmm.
I know that some of our friends in the world of Chiefs media have made a point to point out, like, this is Steve Spagnuolo's type at defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
Do not be surprised if Steve Spagnuolo gets rid of that type, because there are guys in this draft talking about you, Nolan Smith out of Georgia, who are ballers. And if they're sitting there late in the first round,
in like the last 2 days, I talked to somebody else about him.
Yeah. Well, I started a poll, and then all of a sudden everybody's talking. I'm not saying that was me. He's a good,
I'm not saying
good player. People
listen,
know who he was.
It was kind of Tom.
But listen, it was me. I mean, BJ Ojulari. We've talked a little bit about him before on a previous episode.
I think we've talked about Nolan too, so I'm kidding, kind of. But the kids, I like.
I'm going to give you. Here's a sneaky name. Here's a sneaky name that you probably haven't heard of, and I just started working on him. All right, Georgia Tech defensive end, Keon White.
Okay.
Big dude.
Okay. Shout out Keon White.
Juice.
Frank,
I don't know who you are. Shout out.
Tom, I want to ask you this. I called you Frank twice because I'm getting ready to ask you about Frank. That's why.
Frank.
Just so we're all clear here.
Hey, Frank.
I asked Zach about Nolan Smith because he took him in a mock after at like 39 or something after he traded down, which I found interesting. But I also found interesting that wondering what he thought Nolan might play at or what Spags might ask him to play at. And he doesn't say he didn't like to do that. But I know we've talked about stuff like that before. Do you think with BJ or with Nolan or the kid from Georgia Tech that they try to, because I think at least the first two guys are in that smaller, like 235, 240, 245 range, right?
I know.
Yeah,
the first two are definitely smaller.
BJ's like 240, something like that. So
BJ is very small. He's gonna be light for any team.
Same kind of frame?
No, not at all. He's 6'4", 290.
Okay, so the first two guys, I'm very curious with them because you talked about a different body type or different type for Spags.
Mm-hmm.
Spags, the only guy I've seen, well, he's used several guys, but the only guy I've seen in this Chiefs iteration of the Spags defense that he's had play the edge position that's been a smaller guy like that is Frank Clark.
Mike Dana.
Dana's a little bigger than Frank because Frank's playing. I'm telling y'all, Frank is not playing at anything close to 260. He's playing at like 240.
6'1" though, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, I'm talking weight wise because the BJ and Nolan are both like 235s on their weight right now. Do you think him be asked to get bigger to like the 255 range, or does he let him play it? Frank and play 240 because Nolan Smith plays the edge really freaking well on the run. He plays
different. They're different
college
players.
folks.
I'm just sure it's college, but my thing is, do you ask him to try to put on a bunch of weight to
not Nolan
a certain thing?
No,
because
not
Spags
Nolan Smith.
Tried to do that with guys where he's been like, "Oh, you just get a little put 20 pounds on you, and we can move you, do you a little more to try to get you to play the run better."
My boy Nolan.
But you lose the pass rush. Whereas if he can play the run well enough at 235 in the NFL, Spags might take him anyway.
Okay, so their body types are different. Nolan Smith is dense. Like, he's dense like a black hole. I swear he might be listed at 235, but it must be like 234 and a half pounds of muscle. Like, there's probably not even skeletons. It's just thick muscle. The dude, when I go through and I'm like looking at guys preliminary, I look at body sizes.
The only reason he's even being talked about in the late first, early second is because of the knee injury, right?
Torn pec.
Sorry, it was a pec injury.
So yeah. So no, with Smith, you take him, you let him play, as an end. Probably your left end, but he's gonna bully some kids. He's a weird prospect because he's the inverse of what you expect. 6'2", 230, 240. But he plays the run super well. He plays with power, and he needs to develop as a pass rusher.
He's not long. He doesn't have forklift arms. He's not
Well, that's what
he's bendy. He can move. He's fast.
Yeah. He's athletic.
I like he's
he
more.
has to develop as a pass rusher.
I might have used bendy a little aggressively. He's got more bend than several of the other prospects we've seen them look at.
He's flexible enough, but no, he's not developed as a pass rusher. So the poll I put up was Zach Harrison, who's Ohio State, versus Nolan Smith, and Zach Harrison is that prototypical 6'6", 275 athletic. Both were 5-star athletes. Both have all the athletic potential in the world. But you watch the two people play, and you would think that Nolan Smith was the guy who was 275. The way he pushes people around up there. So I'm just throwing another guy. Okay, so Keon White, 6'4", 6'5", somewhere in the 280s, 290s range. He's going to be the Senior Bowl. Watch him there. But 10.5-inch hands, that's big. His arms aren't the longest, 33.5 inches, but he's projected to run in the high to mid 4.6s, which is insane for a dude that big. I think he ends up being a first-round pick in April. Write it down now. Another guy, probably not a first-round pick, probably a day 2 if you're looking at edge guys with like athletic potential. I don't even know how to say his name. Adetomiwa Adebowore. He plays for Northwestern. He's the only draftable prospect on that team, so he shouldn't be too hard. 6'2", 280, expected to run in the 4.5s. Huge hands.
Talking about.
Made Bruce Feldman's freak list. Just So I say all that to say this draft class has some more opportunities for them to take some of those shots, even outside the first round. But I prefer the first round. I would also be madly in love if they ended up with Nolan Smith. I think that would be, that would make people excited.
In this class that's like, if we could go get him. And I don't mean like go up to the top 3. I mean like use your brain.
Yes, there's 2. Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech, who probably a couple months ago would have been a guy who was a late first rounder, but he's flown up the boards.
9 and then Miles range.
Yeah, and then Miles Murphy out of Clemson. So everybody talks about Will Anderson, and who's the other guy?
I really like Will Anderson and all, but the injuries scare the hell out of me.
Yeah. Jared Verse. Jared Verse is another guy who's flying up the boards who could be who could be.
The reason I asked this question is the same reason that I asked Zach about trading out of the first for Nolan.
Yeah. You probably have to trade up. Honestly,
right.
Nolan's probably going to
end up in the
top 25.
What are you willing to give up from this? Because we've got 12 picks again, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have near the holes we had last year. So we don't have to fire all the bullets and get all the picks. They've got a bunch of young guys that they've got on roster that they like right now. So if you really, really like a guy, you can package a couple of those assets together and move up in the first round to go get your person, like you did last year when you moved up to 20-something and got Trent McDuffie. Right? You could even go farther up if you decided to package one of your extra seconds or extra thirds or extra fourths or one of the extra 75 picks you got from the Dolphins trade or any of the other stuff. Those are things that we haven't seen them.
Yeah, you have the extra fourth.
And here's the thing, people will say, well, yeah, but last time he jumped up and swung for a pass rusher, it was Breland Speaks. Okay, guys are going to swing and miss. It happens. Everybody swings and misses. That's not going to be the conversation at this point because we have to worry about what we can do moving forward. Are you comfortable with a guy in this draft with them moving up into that 11 to 20, like going up and making a significant, because moving up to 21, 22 is big, is a good size move, but it's not like a holy crap move. And I think because this draft is in Kansas City and because they are seriously going to want to put a star in this roster from this draft, they may make a holy crap trade up move to go get a person to put on this defense that's, like when they traded from 27 to 10, and I'm not trying to say that he's going to be that level, but you know what I mean. give them a star on this defense to put on this defense, to go with Chris Jones, to go with Snead, who they created, to go with some of these guys they found, to go get them a big in the draft that's in their city, to give them a guy. I think they may make a huge deal. So is there a guy there? Because I think edge may be a position you can trade up into that range and have the value make sense.
I would definitely not be surprised. I would not be surprised if the Chiefs made an aggressive move again, just from a marketing standpoint. Like, you're gonna make, like, if you trade up for a pass rusher in the first round, there are gonna be so many people who walk out of the draft with that kid's jersey. You're gonna make just all the money you could want. I would say, of the guys that are out there, Miles Murphy is probably the floor on that. I wouldn't. Tyree Wilson's got some bumps in his game. You could justify it from a physical athletic standpoint. Another guy is Jared Verse out of Florida State. He's kind of a 1-year guy. I haven't got to his tape yet, but I know a lot of guys who are. There's some people who put him like 1B with Will Anderson and think that he'll be a top 5 pick. So are there some guys that you could do it with? Yeah. If I'm doing it for one of those three: Miles Murphy, Jared Verse, Tyree Wilson. Miles Murphy would be the top of that list. And I think Murphy could see a little bit of a fall because there's some, sometimes you scout the helmet and you look at, it's a Clemson, you think of Cleveland Farrell or whatever, not the same player. In any other draft class, Miles Murphy's probably your, a candidate for your top edge rusher. And so, testings and all that stuff will say a lot. Yeah. So, I think there's a group of guys that could, if Jared Verse moves up, if Tyree, it's still going to shuffle around a lot. And I could see a guy like Miles Murphy not testing as well as some of those other guys. But I think he's a very polished and very complete, like, you can leave him on the field all 4 downs player. Garrett is so checked out of this conversation. He's like, draft.
Yeah.
The reason I wanted to transition from that is because it's going to lead us right into our Seahawks and hopefully bring Garrett back.
Oh my gosh, I can talk again? Oh my goodness.
You can bring Garrett
back. Listen, you could talk the whole time. You just got to learn more about the draft.
Listen, I learned about the draft when it's draft time typically, so that's how my kind of MO is.
This is what I mean, Garrett. When I was talking earlier about the fan base dictates some of the stuff we have to talk about and when we have to talk about it.
I think, I guess.
And I will always push the draft.
And Tom loves the draft. So we have to sometimes feed the draft guy. Feed the draft guy.
Yeah.
Feed him.
Yeah, I told Tom and Kyle we should keep this one shorter, on the shorter side. And they said, yeah, we'll add 20 minutes of draft talking at the end. That'll make it short. Yeah.
Definitely. With that said, the pass rush against Seattle, I think, should be an interesting watch because there's been a sickness bug running around the defensive line locker room, and it's not been great. I don't know that Saunders is going to play potentially because of it. It looks like there's Jones was down for multiple days before the last game and after that game with illness stuff. There's Frank was sick. Yeah, Chris was drinking a very large bottle of water with a glass bottle. I don't know. That was very strange. I don't know what was happening.
Glass bottle of sparkling
water or something. I don't know. It was just it's been all over the room. So I also don't necessarily think everybody was full. It's been full go in that room with the bug that's been going around. But like, I'm curious to see what they do against this team because we are getting ready to face Pro Bowl quarterback Geno Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, are we ready for Pro Bowl quarterback Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks on Christmas?
I don't know if we are.
Lunchtime?
I don't know if we are. I'll throw that out there. I don't know. Geno might have a game versus us. I'm just saying.
He could. He's a quarterback that seems like something that might give us some issues because he likes to run around and make extra things take really long time and silly stuff happen, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be some big.
That's
issues.
why I'm interested about this pass rush and seeing if they can maybe adapt to this Seahawks team a little bit with a Kenneth Walker who is.
Dude, a little bit.
I feel for that guy, man. How many different times and things and injuries and stuff. What is it now? He just got to put something else on.
I think a knee. I think it was something in his knee or something.
That guy, what is it in Seattle in the water with running backs where they just, I know they use them a lot, but goodness
Yeah, that
gracious.
is true. A lot of good running backs go there to die, unfortunately.
It's not even
no
that.
idea.
They just seem, and they don't even die. Like, they play good for the 4 years they're there. They just only play 12 games a season. It's just,
Yeah, that
it's
is
crazy.
tough.
So, what do we expect to see out of this? Because Tom, I know you've looked at the offensive line, and Garrett, I know you've looked at a little bit at the Seahawks offensive weaponry. So I'm curious to see what you two think about the offensive approach from Seattle and what the defense might do.
Yeah, I can take it on the offensive side. Obviously, you have Tyler Lockett. You got DK Metcalf, who are,
7 seconds, baby. Just remember 7 seconds.
7 seconds. Yeah, I was about to say we had to count 7 seconds there. They actually have surprisingly a lot of firepower on the Seahawks offense. I want to say off the top of my head, I forget the other wide receiver that they have. And I'm
Besides
looking
Tyler
now.
Lockett and DK Metcalf?
Yeah, Marquise Goodwin.
Oh, Goodwin's out there, yeah, from San Francisco.
Exactly. So you have some players out there. They got.
He's fast.
Yeah, they have some tight ends that can catch the rock. So that's something.
And this is a surprise to everybody, but everybody I think that was supposedly questionable is going to play, except for like one or two people, and they weren't questionable; they were doubtful or outs already.
Yeah, of course that happens.
Noah Fant is the reason I mentioned that when Garrett was talking about tight ends
Noah Fant,
and injuries, because Noah Fant, I believe, is going to play in this game and is, if we're familiar as Chiefs fans, from
Denver. As part of that lucrative Russell Wilson trade that worked out really well for one team.
For the Broncos.
Yeah, it worked out well for one team in that trade, and not the one you would expect. So yeah, I think really it's going to be interesting to see how Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense kind of adjust to the different weaponry. I mean, you have some A1 tier receivers in DK and Tyler Lockett. Like they're some of the best guys that you will face in the NFL level. Especially their different skill sets that you have with them. Going to be curious to see who kind of gets the assignment for them, if they kind of just played the soft zone and let them run up and down the field on them a bunch and see how that works. I don't know.
Who would you put on them in man, Garrett?
Yeah, I guess
who would your dream matchup for Lockett and DK be if you picked your corner for each one, for man?
I think the easy answer would probably be Josh Williams on DK Metcalf and seeing how he fares with him, and then Tyler Lockett you put Trent on and see how they fare. It's a tall task for two rookies, and we talked about the two rookies. We talked about just all the rookies having a kind of a tough go, but it's a tall task to ask them to do that. But that I think is kind of the matchup that they're meant for.
I would do that. Also, the only other guy I might rotate in there and give some snaps on DK would be L'Jarius. Yeah, I like the L'Jarius matchup.
What do you have,
Tom? Tom can share. I'm gonna let him.
Tom, go ahead, Tom.
I agree with Garrett's initial one more than I think in general than any of the other matchups. I like Josh on DK and Trent on Tyler for those reasons.
I like Josh on DK as well. I want Snead on Tyler because they move Tyler around the most, and he's kind of their like slot hybrid guy, and then let Trent handle. I mean, I'm not saying that it's always going to be 1-to-1 because that's not how it works. But in terms of like how Tyler Lockett's used, and Tyler Lockett's the vet in that offense, and he is crafty, and you put he's gonna get some on a rookie more than he'll probably get a couple on Snead, but
that's why I want the matchup for Trent, Tom. I want to see it.
So I mean, we'll see snaps of it, but I wouldn't go 1-to-1 on it. But I'm just if that's what we're talking, like where do we pair people up in an ideal matchup? I think that's what you want because you can put Snead, he can follow around and you can be more successful at that. So
like I said, this is the question was who do you want to see play those two individuals? Who would you want to put on those two individuals? Now, that's
how I would do it.
That's why we do this. So, Garrett, outside of that, with the Kenneth Walker scenario, what are your concerns outside of the receivers? Because the receivers are going to be a concern always. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and that's a squad. So,
yeah. I think definitely containing Geno, I think, is going to be huge because with Kenneth Walker maybe not going or maybe not being, full. Like they have other decent running backs, and they can get that run game going. But I don't know. I think containing Geno is. The Chiefs' defense is tough against mobile quarterbacks. They just have a tough time containing them, keeping a spy on them. Just the soft zone that they'd be playing a lot. Like it's not set up. I mean, you almost think like you'd rather have more of a stand in the pocket quarterback that can make those throws, which Geno kind of can do everything. Geno's popping off this year.
Geno's
but
having a year.
yeah, so it's like it's tough to keep that to derail that train, but really it's just, and we say it all the time, the bend don't break. Like once you get to the red zone, you have to step up, and once you have that shield where you're not threatened by all the speed that the offense has, like that's when you got to make that pass rush count. That's when you got to make the blitzes count. I don't think we have to be blitzing, halfway down the field, like because there's just the big play factor that comes out of the Seahawks. Like you have to really calculate the good moments that you get. So, and turnovers, that's going to be a huge thing too, hopefully. But we talked about the turnover.
So, Tom, from that same vein, an approach to maybe taking advantage of some of the things, not necessarily. We've seen Geno do a lot of things really well this year, but he has a history in the past of having the ball security, maybe some turnovers, a strip sack, or a pick here and there with him sometimes. How does this defense go about inducing one of those either out of him or out of the rest of this Seahawks team this week?
Good luck. I was just going to talk about the Seahawks have a very underrated offensive line. They've got two rookie tackles who are playing really well.
Yeah.
Charles Cross and Abe Lucas.
Yep.
Yeah.
They got Chiefs legend Austin Blythe.
So there might be some room for Chris Jones to get some push. They're gonna again. It's gonna have to be a cohesive unit on the defensive side. I'll say this about the game as a whole. The Chiefs have kind of had these past two games that are way closer than they should have been, and I think the Chiefs tend to kind of underrate opponents. They can sleepwalk on some guys. Seattle is a better team than what people think. Also are in a position where they're fighting for their playoff positioning.
Yep.
So the Chiefs need to take this game pretty seriously. And I think depending on how they approach it, we're going to have a pretty good feel for where they stand going into the postseason. I will also say this about their defense. We're
not there yet. You're jumping.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Transition us. Go ahead. I'm kidding.
No, I was just saying, I don't think it's just gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough sledding on. They're gonna have to earn their plays against this offense, and it's a good test because you have all the skill positions you could want, including trying to stop the run. Even if Kenneth Walker is banged up, they've got some talented guys behind him. So transitioning now, this could end up being a good old fashioned shootout. Like I don't stress about their defense. They've got some younger pass rushers that they kind of rotate through. They've got a pretty interesting setup, but I'm not sweating their defense, and they've got some young corners that I think you can take advantage of.
We've got
Rookie of the Year.
You've got McCole coming back this week. Kadarius is going to be probably more involved than McCole this week because Kadarius was back last week. McCole's first week back this week, so we do the tune-up thing. So with Kadarius more involved, I assume Juju and everybody on the offensive side, I haven't seen too much of anybody being down or out from the offensive side of the ball this week with Travis and that crew. What does this offense look like against this Seattle defense? You're expecting points, Tom?
Yeah, I think Travis will eat. I think Juju will eat. I think we'll see some flashy plays from either Kadarius, MVS, or maybe even McCole. Like they'll work the matchups and then they'll take their shots with those guys. The safety wise, they don't have anybody who's going to match up well with Travis Kelce, and that's going to open up the offense. And then also, I mean, their run defense is probably going to be pretty stout. They've got some really good run stuffers up front.
Shelby Harris in there now because Denver.
Shelby Harris, Poona Ford.
Part of that great trade.
Yeah. So right. It's an exciting time. Listen, if you're a Seahawks fan, like it's a good time to be a Seahawks fan. They've got some really good pieces here. Tariq Woolen, one of my draft crushes, plays really well. Has made some plays on the ball, but I think if you really play a physical style, like if you can get some matchups with like Juju on him, I think you're going to see some success because he is not a guy you like. They're probably not going to press a lot. He's a zone guy. So if you can kind of make him work in tight quarters, I think you can make that. Just don't get baited into any silly throws. But other
Tom
than that,
brought me to my guy that I wanted to talk about because I knew it was his draft crush, and we have another rookie on this offense of ours that is looking to get some run, and I'm curious to see if we might get some matchups with a Sky Moore and a Tariq Woolen this weekend. And
I
what
hope
Sky
so.
might be able to
I
take
don't
advantage
think
of in
so,
that
and I
matchup.
hope not. Please do not do that.
Tariq Woolen is like 3 times the size of Sky Moore.
I know.
And runs
You
faster.
said tight spaces.
Yeah.
He's
I mean, I
also
get that.
Definitely more.
They're going to play him more in zone, though, I think. And so I don't think you'll see too much pressing up from him.
I will say this
Are
about.
we going to see them start to add Sky into this offense in this week? Because I think this is the week you
No.
can see them use some plays more than like. Look, they use a pretty vanilla playbook sometimes against some of these opponents. I think the Seahawks may be a team they put a few plays out there for because this team is a little better and they're still fighting for a division, and this is going to be a little more of a game. And I'm using the air quotes, y'all, because we don't have to do that anymore. We're on video now, so it's.
It's a good theory, Kyle. I think it's a good theory. I don't think this is the week to do it, though. I think, like Tom said, this is that's almost like underrating your opponent and thinking that this is a good week to do that.
I think they're going to start to have to actually. I'm saying they're having to start using the playbook and that they're going to use in the playoffs. So that means are you going to start using Sky more or not?
It's a good theory. I think in a perfect world, I think you should. I also think this week, especially with getting Mecole back and getting Kadarius more involved, it's probably going to be more of them and less of Sky probably this week. I think you're not like I don't think you're exploiting a good matchup with Sky and Tariq Woolen or any of really their quarterback. I also don't think it's a good week for Sky. I think Sky will get his run eventually, but I'm not sure this is the week. Tom?
I don't think I like Sky Moore. This is not Sky Moore is not a secret weapon. There's
no friendly skies in this.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah, he's not.
He's not a
breaking
case of glass emergency piece. He's not the secret weapon.
No,
he's a rookie who's got who has some elite traits, but has a lot of. He played at Western Michigan. It's a big step for him, and he's developing. So next year we can talk more about Sky next year. That's where I'm at. I'm not saying he won't play a role or won't make some plays down the stretch, but he's not going to be featured. They're not building the offense or building the game plan around Sky Moore.
Has Kadarius Toney stepped into the role that a lot of people thought they hoped Sky would develop into now as this year's that's his job, and then next year we'll reevaluate the room going forward with those guys in it and everybody else gone that's not here.
He's definitely speed. He's definitely added the speed element that they probably wanted to get from Sky.
To be that guy to me, I'm just curious what you.
He definitely does seem to be kind of. I think it's. I mean, let's put it this way: they definitely don't trade for Kadarius Toney if Sky Moore develops faster. Let's just that. I think that's fair to say, maybe. Right. Like if Sky did just take off and accelerate out the gates, they probably don't need Toney, but they realize they still gotta need Toney.
I think if Toney can prove, and he hasn't, but if he can be healthy and stable, Toney is your like him and Juju are your 1 and 2.
Toney
and however way you want to stack it.
He's kind of close.
Toney is your secret weapon way before Sky is.
So that's what I wanted. That's what I was wondering because people talk all preseason and then early in the season. Well, we're gonna bust Sky out as the year goes, and he's gonna be the secret weapon. And we talked on this podcast that hey, he's a rookie, and every time we do this with rookie wide receivers, we end up going by the year 2, going well. We know they don't really use them like that in year 1. And guess what?
It's like we need to manage our expectations. Yeah, if only we could do that.
It's a wild concept. I don't buy into it yet. So
with the full circle complete, Tom go first. Garrett, I will go second, and then you can get us out of here.
31-20 Kansas City.
What'd you say?
31-20 Kansas City. I said it fast so it would come through on the delay.
21-20, and I about fell out of my chair. I knew it was gonna be a little closer, but good lord.
31-20 Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Okay.
Well,
Kyle.
I'm gonna go. I think they're gonna score points. I think it's gonna be like 34-26, 34-27, something like that. I think maybe a late touchdown that gets it away from 34-21 or 20 or something in that lanes. But
it's also going to be cold.
Yeah, I know, and Patrick really likes cold and making people not like playing him in the cold. He also likes sitting on the sidelines in the fourth quarter, so if they can put up a bunch of points and then let Seattle get a bunch of garbage time stuff, that's an option too. I'm not sitting here doubting Seattle. I just want to see if Patrick and them want to be done early on a day where they could push the gas pedal if they can get out and play a clean game, but they need to play clean. That's why I think the more realistic thing is like 34-27, and he kind of doesn't have to do anything crazy late, but they still score late to make it a one-score game and close enough with like a minute left or something. So, Garrett, what you got?
I'm feeling a little bit indifferent about this game, I think. I think this game kind of ends either two ways. I think so. We've secured the AFC West, right? That's done. So we are in the playoffs. So we either go further and decide to really step on the pedal, like we've been saying, and say, let's really fight for that one spot. Let's really go for it. Or you kind of relax a little bit and decide that we're in the playoffs and we've won and we've got a home field game at least. So maybe we try some things. Maybe we don't take them as seriously. This is just Seattle after all. Like last time the Chiefs played Seattle, I think we beat them. No, actually, I think we lost the last time that we played Seattle.
That's an old
So
division opponent. I don't know that they'll take him lightly.
yeah, you say that, we say that every week, and we keep on taking people kind of lightly. Uh, I'm gonna go 31-28, with the winner being the Seattle Seahawks. It's been I'm putting it out there, and I'm not watching the game live, so if this happens, I won't be mad. B, I just feel like the Chiefs have been sleeping a little too much these past couple of weeks, playing down to to the Rams, playing down to the Texans, and all of a sudden you think that you have to play down to a team like the Seahawks, and they actually end up punching you in the face and giving you a little bit of a needed gut check. And it's just kind of that point in the season where we can afford a lot, still be fine for the rest of the year, and still be good for seeding and all that stuff. It's not going to completely derail us. I think it'll be a good lesson. But also, like, we all looked at the start of the season and said, like, oh, this is probably like an 11-6, 12-5 year. And then, like, every year you got to, when it comes down to picking the games that we lose, it's like, we can't pick up the lose.
Earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like
Full circle.
And especially the
We
losses
found the
that
title
come
for this episode, Garrett. Just call
full
it for
circle.
full circle.
Yeah, we have come full circle. But yeah, I think I think we come full circle. I think is what happens here, and the Chiefs kind of wrap up all of their mishaps in one nice little tight bow with the loss, and move on to the playoffs and just keep on rolling and get that out the way. I don't know though. I'm not an expert. I just talk about the Chiefs, as do my co-host here, Kyle Henning at KThen16 on Twitter, Arrowhead Tom at Arrowhead Tom on Twitter, and myself at Garrett720 on Twitter. We are very grateful for all of you to tune in and watch with us each and every week. If you're not watching, you can go watch us on our YouTube. YouTube Kingdom Says Pod. Otherwise, you can listen on any of your normal podcast apps. Boys, anything else we gotta say before we get out of here?
Chiefs Kingdom, don't rob any more banks this week.
Valid.
No bank robbery. And everybody be safe over the holidays.
Yes.
Enjoy your families, your loved ones, if you get the opportunity. If you don't get the opportunity, good luck. Call your family and your loved ones. Enjoy them digitally. Spend the time. Take a few minutes for yourself, regardless. Enjoy the holidays. I know it's an awesome time for a lot of folks. It can also be tough for a lot of folks. So thinking of everybody out there, have a Merry Christmas if you celebrate it. Hanukkah, all those kinds of things are rolling right now. So just enjoy everything. And we'll be back with you before New Year's. We may give out some late Christmas gifts for the Chiefs from the players and stuff, do some award stuff like that. And look for some New Year's resolutions maybe as well in that next episode in the next week. So just thankful to everybody for hanging with us all the way through the year, and so excited for what's coming forward, because there's a lot coming forward when the calendar clicks over to January for you guys. So stay tuned. Jump on the YouTube channel. We're going to be there a lot. You're going to be able to interact with us over there. We're getting that all squared away for you guys. So with that, Tom, Garrett, thank you guys yourselves. Enjoy your holidays yourselves, fellas. We appreciate you both tremendously. Thank you for all of you guys do with the show. I'll get out of the way.
Tom, any deeper closing words than don't rob a bank?
So if you look at the 2023 NFL draft,
all right. Thank you all so much for listening to this one. Follow us at Kingdom Says Pod. We'll see you next week.